The giant snake invaded the farm, but no one expected the child to tame it. Rebecca Wilson was losing patience with her 4-year-old daughter when the screams began echoing across the farmyard. Emma Grace had disappeared again, and this time the workers seemed in total panic. It was when she saw the scene that her heart nearly stopped. A giant snake, at least 16 feet long, was coiled in the middle of the main corral. And there, right in front of the creature, was her little girl stretching out her tiny hand as if greeting a dog. "Emma Grace, don't move!" shouted Rebecca, running toward her daughter. "It's okay, Mommy. She won't hurt me," the girl said, with the calm of someone playing in the park. Walter, the oldest foreman at Pine Valley Farm, was white as a sheet. At 72, he'd seen everything on that land in rural Montana, but never a serpent of that size. "Mrs. Wilson, you need to get that child away now. That snake could swallow her whole," Walter said, gripping a wooden stick with trembling hands. Emma Grace didn't seem to hear the adults. She stepped even closer to the snake, which lowered its massive head to the child's level. When the girl touched the animal's head, everyone present held their breath. The snake went completely still. "Good Lord," murmured Mrs. Jenkins, the farm's cook, crossing herself repeatedly. "That girl's got something special about her, that's for sure." Rebecca's legs shook. Ever since her husband had passed 2 years ago, leaving her a widow at 35, she'd struggled to keep the farm running. The 500-acre property had been in the family for generations, but times had been hard lately. And now this. "Emma Grace, come here slowly," Rebecca said, trying to steady her voice. "I can't, Mommy. She's scared." "Who's scared?" Rebecca asked, confused. "The snake. She's looking for a safe place." Walter shook his head in disbelief. In 50 years working the farm, he'd never seen anything like it. The girl seemed to be communicating with the animal in a way he couldn't understand. "Mrs. Wilson, with all due respect, but that snake has to go," Walter said. "The other workers are too afraid to stay." It was true. Rebecca could see from the corner of her eye that several employees were backing away, some already grabbing their tools and heading toward their cars. If she lost the workforce now, in the middle of harvest season, the farm would be ruined. "Emma Grace, please," Rebecca insisted, but the girl was already sitting on the ground beside the snake, as if they were old friends. The giant creature formed a loose circle around the child, not threateningly, but almost protectively. That's when Amanda, Rebecca's younger sister, arrived by car from town. She slammed the brakes when she saw the scene. "What's going on here?" Amanda asked, stepping out. "Your niece decided to befriend a 16-foot snake," Rebecca said, unable to hide the desperation in her voice. Amanda watched for a few seconds before speaking. "Rebecca, this is too dangerous. Emma Grace needs medical attention. A child acting like this isn't normal." "She's always had this connection with animals," Rebecca defended. "But never like this." "Exactly. It's not normal. You need to think about what's best for her." Rebecca knew her sister was partly right, but something in Amanda's tone unsettled her. Over the past few months, Amanda had made several suggestions about selling the farm and moving to the city. She always said it would be better for Emma Grace to have access to schools and doctors. Dear listener, if you're enjoying the story, please take a moment to like and especially subscribe to the channel. It helps us a lot as we're just starting out. Now, continuing. The workers began to disperse as the afternoon wore on. Walter tried to convince some to stay, but fear was stronger. John Miller, who had worked on the farm for 15 years, went straight to Rebecca. "Mrs. Wilson, with all due respect, but I can't work with that snake around. I have a family to support," said John, taking off his hat and looking at the ground. "John, please, it's just until we sort this out," Rebecca pleaded. "Sorry, but it's too dangerous. If something happens to me, who'll take care of my wife and 3 kids?" One by one, the workers left. By the end of the day, only Walter, Mrs. Jenkins, and 2 younger workers remained. The farm, which usually employed 15 people, now had 4. Rebecca watched Emma Grace, who stayed by the snake as if nothing had happened. The girl even seemed to be talking to the animal, making gestures with her small hands. "Mommy, she's pregnant," Emma Grace suddenly said. "What?" Rebecca asked. "The snake. She's expecting babies. That's why she came here." Walter approached slowly. Over the years, he'd learned to respect the girl's strange insights about animals. Once she'd warned that the mare star was sick 3 days before symptoms appeared. "How do you know that, little one?" Walter asked. "She showed me," Emma Grace said, pointing to the snake's belly. "Look how big it is." Rebecca looked closer and noticed the snake's body was indeed swollen in one area. Could it be true? "Walter, do you know anyone who understands snakes?" Rebecca asked. "There's Dr. Sarah in town. She's a vet and has treated wild animals before. Call her, please." As Walter went to make the call, Amanda approached Rebecca. "You can't be serious. You're calling a vet for an invasive snake." "Amanda, if Emma Grace is right and the animal is pregnant, maybe that's why it came here, looking for a safe place." "So what? What matters is your daughter's safety and the workers." "Rebecca, you're being irresponsible." "I'm not being irresponsible. I'm trying to understand the situation." "Understand what? It's a giant snake. Just get it out of here. End of story." Rebecca studied her sister carefully. There was something off about her urgency. "Why are you so worked up about this, Amanda?" "Because I care about you. This farm has been losing money for months. Now with this snake business, you'll lose all your workers. Wouldn't it be better to accept the offer and sell now?" "What offer?" Amanda seemed to realize she'd said too much. "The offer I told you about last week, from the businessman who wants to buy land in the area. You said it was just an inquiry. You didn't mention a concrete offer. Well, he made a better offer afterward." Rebecca felt a tightness in her chest. Something wasn't right. "Amanda, did you talk to this businessman without telling me?" "It's nothing official. I just said you might be interested." "You had no right to do that." The argument was interrupted by Walter returning with the phone in hand. "Mrs. Wilson, Dr. Sarah is coming early tomorrow. She said it's important not to disturb the animal until then." "How are we supposed to manage that? Emma Grace won't leave the snake's side," Rebecca said. "Let her stay," Emma Grace said. "I'll take care of her." "Emma Grace, you're too little to—" "Mommy, trust me, she just wants a safe place to have her babies." Rebecca looked at her daughter. At 4 years old, Emma Grace had an odd maturity about certain things, especially when it came to animals. Since she was a baby, she could calm nervous dogs and wild cats with just a touch. "All right," Rebecca finally said. "But you're not sleeping in the pen." "Can I sleep in the barn? It's close by." "Emma Grace, please, Mom, she needs me." Rebecca sighed. Sometimes she felt like she was raising her daughter alone with no idea what she was doing. "Fine, but I'm sleeping in the barn too." "And I'll keep watch," said Walter. "I won't sleep a wink anyway." Amanda shook her head, clearly annoyed. "You've all lost your minds. I'm leaving before that snake decides it wants dinner too." "Amanda, you don't have to go like this," Rebecca said. "Yes, I do. And you should think harder about what you're doing, for Emma Grace's sake." After Amanda left, Rebecca helped Emma Grace set up a little spot in the barn with blankets and pillows. The snake had moved to a nearby area but was still visible from the barn door. "Mom, why was Aunt Amanda so mad?" Emma Grace asked. "She's worried about us." "But the snake isn't bad, she's just scared." "Scared of what, sweetheart?" "Of the people who want to hurt her." Rebecca felt a chill. There was something in the way Emma Grace spoke that sounded almost like a warning. That night, Rebecca barely slept. Every noise jolted her awake, expecting to see the giant snake inside the barn. But Emma Grace slept peacefully, as if she were in her own room. In the morning, Dr. Sarah arrived early, driving a white pickup truck. She was a woman in her 40s, with short hair and a no-nonsense way of speaking. "Where's the animal?" she asked, grabbing a bag from the car. Rebecca pointed toward the pen. The snake was still in the same spot, now with Emma Grace sitting beside her, eating bread with milk. "Good Lord," the vet murmured. "She really is huge." "Emma Grace thinks she's pregnant," Rebecca said. Dr. Sarah approached slowly, watching the animal's behavior. The snake lifted its head at the vet's presence but showed no aggression. "This is very strange," the doctor said. "This isn't typical behavior. Snakes this size are usually territorial and aggressive toward humans. But this one's different," Emma Grace said. "She's good." The vet studied Emma Grace for a moment. You're not afraid of her. Why would I be? She won't hurt me. How do you know? She told me. Dr. Sarah gave Rebecca a questioning look. Emma Grace has always had this sensitivity with animals, Rebecca explained, since she was little. Can I examine the animal? The vet asked. Of course, Emma Grace, let the doctor check the snake. Okay, but she doesn't like sudden movements. Dr. Sarah moved in carefully with special equipment. After a few minutes of close observation, she stepped back, looking surprised. You won't believe what I'm about to tell you, she said. What? Rebecca asked. This snake is a giant boa. And as unbelievable as it sounds, the girl's right. She's pregnant. Is that dangerous? Rebecca asked. Normally, yes. Pregnant females are more aggressive, but this one's oddly calm, and there's more. What? Based on the coloring and size, this snake might belong to a species we thought was extinct in the area. It's been at least 20 years since anyone's seen a boa this big around here. Walter walked over to the group. Doc, is that good or bad for us? Well, if it's confirmed to be the species I think it is, you might have a problem. What kind of problem? Rebecca asked. This area could be declared a preservation zone. Depending on the situation, there might be restrictions on farm activities. Rebecca felt the ground drop beneath her. The farm was already struggling financially. If environmental restrictions were imposed, it would be the end. How long will it take to confirm this? She asked. I'll need to take some photos and collect a small sample. I can have an answer in a few days. And in the meantime? In the meantime, the animal can't be removed. In fact, if it's confirmed to be a protected species, it can never be removed. Rebecca looked at Emma Grace, who was still playing calmly near the giant snake, unaware of the complications her new friend was bringing. Is there any way to know if she'll stay here permanently? Rebecca asked. Pregnant snakes look for safe places to give birth. If she settled here, she'll probably stay until the babies are born. And after that, well, she might consider this suitable territory. How long until the babies are born? It could be weeks or a few months, depending on several factors. Rebecca stepped aside and pulled Walter to the side. Walter, what do you think? Miss Rebecca, I've worked on this farm for 50 years. I watched your father grow up here, I watched Mr. Michael grow up here, and now I'm watching little Emma Grace. This land has something special. Special how? I can't explain it, but the animals have always behaved differently here. Remember the mare that wouldn't let anyone ride her except your father? And the wild bull that calmed down just at the sound of Mr. Michael's voice? Rebecca remembered. The farm had always had these quirks, but she'd never paid much attention. Do you think it has something to do with Emma Grace? I think Emma Grace inherited something from the family, something you all have with animals. But a 15-foot snake, Walter. Exactly. Maybe it's a sign. A sign of what? That this farm has a greater purpose than we realize. Rebecca didn't know what to think. She was torn between concern for safety and financial struggles, and something she couldn't explain, a feeling that the snake wasn't there by accident. Dr. Sarah, Rebecca called. If it's confirmed to be a protected species, what exactly happens? Well, the government could declare the area a sanctuary. That might bring some advantages too. What kind of advantages? Preservation subsidies, potential for ecotourism, partnerships with universities. It's not just restrictions. Rebecca felt a flicker of hope. Maybe there was a way to turn this into something positive. How long do you need to run the tests? A week at most. And during that week? During that week, you treat that snake like a national treasure, because that's exactly what it might be. After the vet left, Rebecca watched Emma Grace. The girl had found a way to play with the snake using tree branches, guiding the animal in specific movements. Emma Grace, how do you do that? Rebecca asked. Do what, Mom? Make the snake listen to you. She doesn't listen to me. We understand each other. What do you mean, understand each other? Like how I understand you. She talks to me just without words. Rebecca knelt beside her daughter. Sweetheart, can you ask her how long she'll stay here? Emma Grace closed her eyes and stayed silent for a few seconds. Then she looked at the snake and made some hand gestures. She said she needs a safe place until the babies are born. Then she'll decide if she wants to stay or go somewhere else. And how long will that take? Emma Grace made a few more gestures and waited. The snake moved its head in a specific way. A few weeks, maybe 2 months. Rebecca was amazed by how naturally her daughter and the animal communicated. Emma Grace, are you sure she won't hurt anyone? I'm sure. She only hurts someone if they try to hurt her first. What if the workers come back? She'll let them as long as no one tries to force her away. Rebecca decided to try. If she could convince some workers to return, maybe she could keep the farm running until she got the test results. That afternoon, she went into town to talk to John Miller and a few other workers. The reaction was better than she expected. Mrs. Wilson, if you can guarantee there's no danger, I'll come back, said John. I need the work. John, I can't promise there's absolutely no danger, but I can promise we'll take every precaution. What about the girl? Is she still near the snake? She is, but she has a special way with animals, always has. That's true, said Charlie, another worker. I remember when she calmed that wounded dog that was attacking everyone. And the sick calf, added John. She said it would get better, and it did. Rebecca realized the workers respected Emma Grace's skills with animals. That could work in her favor. Listen, everyone, Rebecca said. I'll be honest with you. The farm is going through tough times. If I lose this year's harvest, I'll have to sell everything. You know what that means for all of us. The men exchanged glances. The farm wasn't just their workplace. It was where many of them had grown up, where their parents had worked. You want us to come back, even with the snake there? John asked. I want you to think about it. Emma Grace can communicate with it somehow. If she says it's safe, I believe her. And if the snake decides to attack someone? John, in 4 years, Emma Grace has never been wrong about an animal's behavior. Never. It was Charlie who made the decision first. I'll come back tomorrow. But if that snake makes any strange moves, I'm running. Me too, said John. But I want the girl nearby whenever I'm working. Rebecca smiled for the first time in days. Deal. Dear listener, if you're enjoying the story, take a moment to like and especially subscribe to the channel. It helps us a lot as we're just starting out. Now, continuing. The next day, 5 workers returned. Emma Grace formally introduced them to the snake, which remained calm the entire time. The girl set a few basic rules: no sudden movements, no shouting, and to let her know if they needed to work too close to the animal. During the first week, a surprising routine settled in. The snake stayed in the same area during the day but moved around the farm at night. Emma Grace always seemed to know where it was. Mom, she's patrolling, Emma Grace explained one morning. Patrolling what? She's checking for danger, to protect the territory where she'll have her babies. Rebecca began to notice unexpected effects from the snake's presence. The rats that usually infested the barn had completely disappeared. The smaller snakes, which sometimes caused problems, were also nowhere to be seen. It's like she's the queen of snakes, Walter remarked. The others respect her territory. Is that good or bad? Rebecca asked. For the farm, it's very good. We haven't had pest losses since she arrived. On Friday, Amanda came back for a visit. She didn't seem surprised to see the workers had returned or that the snake was still there. Rebecca, we need to talk, Amanda said. Of course. What's this about? It's about the purchase offer. The businessman is offering a very good price. Amanda, I already said I don't want to sell, but you should at least consider it. With this snake situation, you could have serious problems. What kind of problems? If it's declared a preservation area, you'll never be able to sell. You'll be stuck here forever. Rebecca looked at her sister carefully. Why are you so set on me selling this farm, Amanda? Because I care about you and Emma Grace. You deserve a better life. Better how? In the city, with access to schools, doctors, opportunities. Emma Grace is fine here. Rebecca, a child who thinks she talks to snakes is not fine. She needs psychological help. Rebecca felt anger rising. Emma Grace doesn't need a psychologist. She has a gift. A gift? Rebecca, listen to what you're saying. A 4-year-old doesn't have any gift. She has an overactive imagination and needs professional help. Amanda, you're exaggerating. Am I? What if she tries this with a venomous snake? What if she gets hurt? Have you thought about that? Rebecca fell silent. The truth was, she had thought about it many times. The purchase offer still stands, Amanda continued, and the amount has increased. Increased? The businessman is very interested in this land specifically. Why? I don't know, but he's willing to pay well above market value. Rebecca sensed something odd about the story. Amanda, who is this businessman? What's the company's name? Well, he prefers to remain discreet for now. Business matters. There's no serious purchase without identifying the buyer. Rebecca, you're complicating something that should be simple. It's a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. Amanda, give me a few days to think. Fine, but don't take too long. Opportunities like this don't come often. After Amanda left, Rebecca grew thoughtful. There was something about her sister's insistence that didn't make sense. Amanda had never shown interest in the farm's business before. That night, Emma Grace had trouble sleeping. She tossed and turned in the barn, restless. What's wrong, sweetheart? Rebecca asked. The snake is nervous. Nervous about what? I don't know, it feels like people want to hurt it. What kind of hurt? Take it away. Hurt it. Rebecca's chest tightened. Was this paranoia, or was there something real behind Emma Grace's worry? Honey, no one's going to hurt the snake. Yes, Mommy, it feels danger. What kind of danger? Emma Grace stayed quiet for a few minutes as if concentrating. Bad people are coming. They want the snake gone so they can take our house. Rebecca froze. How could Emma Grace know about the purchase offer? Emma Grace, who told you this? The snake. It sees and hears a lot. What else has it seen? It saw Aunt Amanda talking to strange men near the farm's entrance. Rebecca stood up immediately. When? Yesterday. When she left, she stopped her car on the road and talked to two men. Emma Grace, are you sure? Yes, the snake showed me. Rebecca didn't know whether to believe it, but she decided to investigate. The next day, she went to the road and spoke with Mrs. Parker, who lived in the nearest house. Mrs. Parker, did you see any strange cars here yesterday? I did, Becky. Two men in a black car stopped right in front of your farm's entrance. They talked to your sister. Did you hear anything? No, but it was odd because they kept looking at the farm with binoculars. Rebecca returned home with a racing heart. Emma Grace was right. Something was happening that she didn't know about. That afternoon, she decided to call Dr. Sarah. Doctor, how are the tests? Rebecca, I have news, and it's surprising. Good or bad? Depends on your perspective. The snake is indeed a species considered extinct in this region, but there's more. What? I did some research and found that your farm lies on an ancient migratory route for these snakes. They used this area decades ago. What does that mean? It means your property might be the last viable habitat for this species in the region. It's extremely valuable from an environmental standpoint. And from a legal standpoint? Well, the government may want to preserve the area, but that could be good for you. How so? There are incentive programs for properties that host protected species. You could receive subsidies, develop ecotourism, partner with universities. Rebecca felt a mix of hope and apprehension. And the babies? When will they be born? By my calculations, it should be in 2 or 3 weeks. How many babies could there be? A boa like this can have between 10 and 20 offspring. Rebecca pictured 20 small snakes scattered across the farm. Would it be a blessing or a curse? Dr. Sarah, is there any way to know if they'll stay here after they're born? It depends on many factors, but if the mother considers the place safe with enough food, it's likely at least some will stay. What if I want to keep them here? You want to? I'm thinking about it. If it could bring benefits to the farm, maybe it's worth it. Rebecca, that would be fantastic. A farm that doubles as a wildlife sanctuary is something special. After hanging up, Rebecca kept thinking. Maybe the giant snake wasn't a problem, but a solution. That night, she talked to Emma Grace. Sweetheart, did you ask the snake if she wants to stay here forever? She wants to stay if she and her babies are safe. And what does she need to feel safe? That the bad people don't come anymore. What bad people? The ones who want to take our home. Rebecca decided it was time to uncover the truth about the purchase offer. The next day, she went into town and spoke with the property registry office. "Mr. Thompson, has anyone made inquiries about my farm's paperwork recently?" "Yes, Rebecca, a company from New York. They wanted detailed information about the property." "What kind of information?" "Size, location, legal status, any pending issues." "And the company's name?" "Green Development Group. They said they work with rural ventures." Rebecca wrote down the name and looked it up online. What she found made her uneasy. Green Development Group was known for buying rural land and turning it into luxury condos or resorts. She returned home certain something was very wrong. Amanda knew the buyer's true intentions and hadn't said a word. "Walter," Rebecca called, "I need to talk to you." She told him everything she'd discovered. "Mrs. Wilson, this explains a lot," Walter said. "How so?" "Your sisters rushed to sell, and the above-market offer. They must have some big project planned for this area. But if it's declared a preservation area, they can't build anything here." "Exactly. That's why they want to buy before that happens." "And does Amanda know?" "There's only one way to find out." Rebecca decided to confront her sister. She called and asked Amanda to come to the farm the next day. "Rebecca, is something wrong?" Amanda asked when she arrived. "Yes, something's wrong. I found out who the buyers interested in the farm really are." "Oh, and who are they?" "Green Development Group." "Green?" "A company that builds resorts and luxury condos." Amanda visibly tensed. "So what? Business is business." "Amanda, did you know they want to tear everything down to build a resort?" "Rebecca, you're being dramatic. Development is progress." "Progress? They'll destroy a century-old farm to build a resort for the rich. What's the problem? You'll get a lot of money." "The problem is, this farm is our home, Amanda. It's where Emma Grace is growing up. It's where her father and grandfather grew up." "Rebecca, be practical. Emma Grace can grow up anywhere. And with the sale money, you could have a much better life." "Better for who?" Amanda hesitated before answering. "For you, of course." "Amanda, how much did they promise you?" "What do you mean?" "How much did they promise to pay you if you managed to convince me to sell?" Amanda turned red. "Rebecca, what kind of question is that?" "A straightforward one. Are you getting a commission on this sale?" "I'm only trying to help you. Answer me, yes or no." Amanda sighed. "Yes, they offered a commission, but that doesn't change the fact that it's a good opportunity for you." Rebecca felt like she'd been punched in the gut. "Amanda, are you selling our family's farm for money?" "I'm not selling anything. I'm facilitating a deal that could be good for everyone." "Good for everyone? They'll destroy everything our father built here." "Rebecca, our father died 10 years ago. The farm has been struggling for years. Be realistic." "Be realistic? The farm could become a wildlife sanctuary. It could have a much better future than being torn down for a resort." "A sanctuary doesn't pay the bills, Rebecca. And you think I care more about money than Emma Grace's future?" "I think you should care about Emma Grace's present. She needs schools, doctors, treatment for this obsession with animals." "Emma Grace isn't obsessed. She has a gift." "Rebecca, stop it. A 4-year-old doesn't have a gift. That's your fantasy." The argument was interrupted by Emma Grace, who came running in. "Mommy, they're coming." "Who's coming, sweetheart?" "The bad men. The snake saw them on the road." Rebecca looked at Amanda, who seemed nervous. "Amanda, did you schedule a meeting here today?" "No. I mean, they said they might stop by to see the property." "Without telling me?" "I was going to tell you. You brought them here without my permission?" Before Amanda could answer, 2 black cars pulled into the farm. 4 men in suits stepped out, clearly out of place in the rural setting. "Mrs. Rebecca Wilson?" one of them asked. "I'm Richard Coleman from the Green Development Group." "I didn't schedule any meeting with you," Rebecca said. "Your sister said it would be a good time for us to talk." Rebecca glared at Amanda. "My sister didn't have the authority to do that." "No problem," Richard said. "Since we're here, could we take a quick look around the property?" "No." "Mrs. Wilson, we're making a very generous offer. It's worth at least hearing us out." I already said I'm not interested. That's when Emma Grace tugged her mother's skirt. Mommy, the snake is coming. Rebecca looked toward the barn and saw the giant snake moving toward the group. The men in suits hadn't noticed yet. Gentlemen, Rebecca said, you need to leave, now. Why? Richard asked. Because there's a 15-foot snake heading straight for you. The men turned and saw the creature approaching. 3 of them immediately bolted for their cars. Richard stood his ground, more angry than scared. Is this a threat? He demanded. It's not a threat, it's a fact. There's a giant snake protecting this property. We'll see about that, Richard said, pulling out his phone and making a call. Hello? I need you here now. Bring the equipment. Rebecca didn't like the tone of the conversation. What equipment? Snake catching equipment. We'll handle this little problem. You're not touching that snake. Ma'am, that snake is a public danger. We're calling animal control to remove it. No, you're not. This is private property, and the snake is legally protected. Legally protected? Richard scoffed. Snakes don't have legal protection. This one does. It's a protected species. Richard's expression turned serious. What do you mean, protected species? It's a giant boa considered extinct in this region. Its presence here could turn this land into a wildlife sanctuary. Is that true? Richard asked Amanda. Amanda looked visibly uncomfortable. I didn't know that. Richard made another call, speaking softly. Then he hung up and looked at Rebecca. Mrs. Wilson, we'll increase our offer by 50%. It doesn't matter. 100%. It's not for sale. Everyone has a price, ma'am. That's when Emma Grace stepped between Richard and Rebecca. My mom said she doesn't want to sell, and the snake said you have to leave. Richard looked at the little girl and laughed. Oh, really? And what else did the snake say? It said you're bad people who want to destroy the animal's home. Emma Grace, Rebecca called. Come here. But Emma Grace didn't move, and the giant snake kept getting closer. Richard looked at the snake, then at Emma Grace, then at Rebecca. This isn't our last conversation, he said. We'll be back. You won't be welcome, Rebecca replied. After the men left, Rebecca turned to Amanda. Amanda, I want you to leave too. Rebecca, don't be like this. I was only trying to help. Help who? Me or them? You, of course. That's a lie. You were thinking about your commission. Rebecca, let's be practical. That snake is going to bring trouble. The longer it stays here, the more complicated things will get. The only complication here is having a sister who sells out her family for money. Amanda stayed silent for a few seconds. Fine, she finally said, but when you realize you've made a mistake, don't come asking for my help. I won't. After Amanda left, Rebecca sat on the porch step, watching Emma Grace play with the snake. Walter approached. Mrs. Wilson, you did the right thing. Did I? I just fought with my only sister. You stood up for your daughter and your land. That's what matters. Walter, do you really think Emma Grace can communicate with the snake? Mrs. Wilson, that girl has something special. She always has. Remember when she was a baby and calmed nervous horses just by being near them? I remember. And when she predicted the cow would have complications during birth? I remember that too. Exactly. Emma Grace has a gift, and that snake recognizes it. But why now? Why did the snake appear when the farm is in trouble? Maybe it's not a coincidence. What do you mean? Maybe that snake came to protect the farm. Rebecca looked at Walter as if he were crazy. Walter, snakes don't protect farms. Normal snakes don't. But that snake isn't normal. And Emma Grace isn't a normal child. Rebecca grew thoughtful. There was something in Walter's logic that made sense, no matter how strange it seemed. So now what? What do we do? Now we wait for the babies to be born and see what happens. Dear listener, if you're enjoying the story, take a moment to like and especially subscribe to the channel. It helps us a lot as we're just starting out. Now continuing. The following week, things grew more tense. Strange cars began passing by the road frequently, always stopping to watch the farm. Emma Grace became more restless. saying the snake was worried. "Mom, they won't give up," said Emma Grace. "Who won't give up?" "The bad men. They want our home." "Sweetheart, they can't take our home by force." "Yes, they can." The snake heard them talking about ways to make us leave. Rebecca was starting to take Emma Grace's warnings more seriously. She decided to seek legal help. "Attorney Davis," she said to the family lawyer, "I need to know my rights if someone tries to force me to sell the farm." "Rebecca, no one can force you to sell. But there are situations where a sale can be compulsory." "What situations?" "Eminent domain for public use, serious environmental issues, mortgage debts." "And in my case?" "In your case, you're safe. No significant debts, no environmental problems. On the contrary, if it's confirmed that your farm is home to a protected species, you're in an even stronger position." "How so?" "Preservation areas have special legal protection. No one can expropriate or develop that kind of land." Rebecca felt a little more at ease. "What if they try to create artificial problems?" "What kind of problems?" "I don't know. False reports, claims of public danger." "Rebecca, are you worried about something specific?" "I am. The company that wants to buy the farm doesn't seem to take no for an answer." "What's the company's name?" "Green Development Group." The lawyer made a note. "I'll look into them. If they have a history of questionable practices, you'd better stay alert." Rebecca went home feeling calmer, but the peace didn't last long. That afternoon, Emma Grace came running. "Mommy, it's happening." "What?" "The snake's babies. She's getting ready." Rebecca rushed to the barn and found the snake in a different position, coiled up as if preparing for something important. "Are you sure?" Rebecca asked. "Yes, she told me it's today." Rebecca immediately called Dr. Sarah. "Doctor, Emma Grace thinks the snake is giving birth today." "Really? How does she know?" "I can't explain it, but she's always right about these things." "I'm on my way. If it's true, this is a historic moment." Dr. Sarah arrived in less than an hour, bringing equipment to document the birth. Emma Grace sat close to the snake, which seemed strangely calm. "This is truly incredible," the vet said. "Her behavior is unusual, but all the signs point to labor being near." "Is it dangerous?" Rebecca asked. "Normally, yes. Females in labor are very aggressive, but this one seems to be protecting the girl." Over the next few hours, Emma Grace stayed by the snake's side, making soothing gestures. Walter and the other workers kept a respectful distance, but everyone was curious. Just before sunset, it began. The snake contracted and the first baby appeared. Emma Grace was ecstatic. "Look, Mommy, the first baby." Rebecca watched in awe as the giant snake gave birth to 15 tiny babies. Emma Grace seemed to oversee the process like an experienced midwife. "My goodness," Dr. Sarah murmured. "I'm documenting something unique. A human child witnessing the birth of a species thought to be extinct, and the mother allowing her presence." When the last baby was born, Emma Grace approached the mother snake and made what looked like a congratulatory gesture. The animal lowered its massive head and gently touched the girl's forehead. "Emma Grace," Rebecca called, "come here now." "It's okay, Mommy. She's thanking me for taking care of her." "Thanking you." She said without me and the safe place we gave her, the babies wouldn't have been born healthy. Dr. Sarah was recording everything. "Rebecca, this is extraordinary. I'm witnessing a level of cross-species communication science barely understands. And now? What happens to the babies?" "Now they'll grow up here if the mother decides it's safe." Rebecca looked at the 15 tiny babies scattered around their giant mother. In a few weeks, they'd be exploring the farm. "Doctor, does this change anything about the preservation status?" "It changes everything. With an entire family born here, your farm officially becomes a wildlife sanctuary. No one can touch this land." Rebecca felt a mix of relief and apprehension. The farm was protected, but she had no idea how to manage a sanctuary for giant snakes. "What about practical matters?" she asked. "You'll receive government subsidies to maintain the preservation area. You can develop controlled ecotourism, partner with universities for research. Financially, it could be much better than traditional farming." That night, Rebecca had trouble sleeping. She was processing everything that had happened. Her farm had turned into a sanctuary, her daughter had become some kind of guardian to giant snakes, and her sister had revealed herself to be self-interested. Emma Grace, on the other hand, slept peacefully beside the mother snake and her babies. "Walter," Rebecca called, "do you think I did the right thing?" "Mrs. Wilson, look at your daughter. When was the last time you saw her this happy?" Rebecca watched Emma Grace sleeping. It was true. The girl had seemed calmer and happier since the snake arrived. "And look at the farm," Walter continued. "We don't have pest problems anymore, the workers are coming back, and now we have guaranteed income from the government. But what if the snakes become a problem? Mrs. Wilson, if Emma Grace can communicate with the mother, she'll be able to communicate with the babies too, and if she can keep them in line, there won't be any trouble." Rebecca hoped Walter was right. The next day, news of the baby's birth spread through the region. Dr. Sarah had sent reports to universities and environmental agencies. Within hours, journalists and researchers started calling. "Mrs. Wilson, I'm from the local paper. Can we do a story on the farm?" "Mrs. Wilson, I'm a researcher from the university. Can we study the snake's behavior?" "Mrs. Wilson, I'm from the TV station. We'd like to film a documentary." Rebecca was overwhelmed with calls. It was Emma Grace who came up with the solution. "Mom, the mother snake says she can receive visitors, but only people who don't mean harm. How does she know who doesn't mean harm?" "She senses it. And so do I." Rebecca decided to trust her daughter's instincts. She arranged for Emma Grace to be part of every visit, acting as a guide and translator. The first visitors were a team from the State University. Emma Grace introduced them to the snake family like they were old friends. The researchers were amazed by the level of interaction between the girl and the animals. "This is something we've never seen before," the lead professor said. "The communication isn't verbal, but it's clearly effective." "Can Emma Grace make the snakes move where she wants?" another researcher asked. "It's not that she commands them," Emma Grace explained. "We talk and come to an agreement." "What do you mean, talk?" "I use gestures and thoughts, and they respond with movements and, I don't know, feelings." The researchers exchanged fascinated glances. "Would it be possible to run some tests?" they asked Rebecca. "What kind of tests?" "Nothing invasive, just observing how Emma Grace interacts with them, maybe some recordings to study later." Rebecca looked at Emma Grace, who seemed to consider the offer. "They agree," Emma Grace said, "but no one can touch the babies without the mother's permission." "Of course," the professor said. "We completely respect the animals' boundaries." Over the next week, the farm hosted several controlled visits. Emma Grace proved to be a natural guide, explaining the snake's behavior and setting rules for visitors. It was during one of these visits that the first problem arose. Richard Coleman arrived with two uniformed men. "Mrs. Wilson, I'm an animal control inspector," one said. "We've received complaints about dangerous wildlife." "What complaints?" Rebecca asked. "An anonymous report about giant snakes posing a threat to the community." Rebecca glanced at Richard, who wore a faint smirk. "These snakes are legally protected," Rebecca said. "They're a protected species." "We'll need to verify that," the inspector said. "Can I see the animals?" Reluctantly, Rebecca led the group to the barn. Emma Grace immediately positioned herself between the men and the snakes. "They don't like them," she whispered to Rebecca. "Why?" "They sense they came to cause harm." The inspector looked at the snakes and jotted notes on his clipboard. "They really are big," he said. "I'll need veterinary reports proving they're not dangerous." "I have all the reports," Rebecca said, showing Dr. Sarah's documentation. The inspector examined the papers for a few minutes. "Everything seems in order," he finally said. "But we'll need periodic monitoring." "What kind of monitoring?" "Monthly inspections to ensure the animals remain under control." After they left, Emma Grace approached Rebecca. "Mom, they're going to try to cause trouble." "How do you know?" The mother snake heard them talking. The man in the suit asked if there was a way to remove the snakes from here. And what did the inspector say? That if the snakes attacked anyone, they could be removed. Rebecca felt a chill in her stomach. Emma Grace, are you absolutely sure the snakes would never attack anyone? I'm sure, but they could fake an attack. Rebecca realized Richard Coleman and the Green Development Group wouldn't give up easily. They'd tried to buy the land and failed. Now they were looking for legal ways to force the snakes' removal. She decided she needed stronger legal protection. She called her lawyer and explained the situation. Attorney Davis, could they fake a snake attack? They might try, but if you have proper documentation on the animal's behavior, it would be hard to prove. What kind of documentation? Regular vet reports, recordings of interactions, credible witnesses. And if they still get an order to remove the snakes, then you file an injunction based on environmental protection. A protected species can't be removed without federal approval. Rebecca felt slightly more secure, but knew she had to prepare for the worst. Over the following weeks, she set up a thorough documentation system. Dr. Sarah began making weekly visits. University researchers recorded all interactions, and Rebecca kept detailed logs of everything happening at Pine Valley Farm. Emma Grace continued overseeing the snakes' activities. The babies were growing quickly and starting to explore larger areas of the farm. Surprisingly, they seemed to follow a sort of hierarchy established by the mother and supervised by Emma Grace. It's like she's the human leader of the snake family, one researcher observed. She sets territory, resolves conflicts, even decides when they can hunt. Rebecca was fascinated watching her daughter interact with the animals. Emma Grace seemed to have developed an increasingly sophisticated communication system with the snakes. "Sweetheart, can you understand what each snake is thinking?" Rebecca asked. "Sort of. The mother is easier because she's older and knows more words. The babies are simpler. More words? Not real words, but more complicated ideas." "What kind of ideas?" "The mother can explain dangers, food, safe places. The babies only talk about simple things, like if they're hungry or sleepy." Rebecca was starting to accept that her daughter truly had a unique and extraordinary gift. It was at the end of the second month that serious trouble arrived. Richard Coleman showed up at the farm with a film crew. "Ms. Wilson, I'm an investigative journalist," said a man with a camera. "We're doing a story on the risks of keeping wild animals near communities." "This is private property," Rebecca said. "You can't film here without permission." "We're filming from the public road," the journalist replied. "It's our right." Rebecca noticed they were trying to provoke some reaction from the snakes to film them. Emma Grace noticed it too. "Mom, they want the snakes to get nervous, so they can say they're dangerous." "Are you sure?" "Yes. And the mother snake knows too. She's preparing the others not to react." Rebecca watched the snakes. They really did seem quieter than usual, as if following specific instructions. The film crew spent 2 hours on the road making noises and trying to get the snakes' attention. They didn't get any significant reaction. "This isn't working," Richard said to the journalist. "Maybe if we got closer." "You can't enter the property without permission," said Rebecca, who was watching from a distance. That's when Richard had another idea. "What if we did something to make the snakes nervous, like a loud noise?" "What kind of noise?" "I don't know. Fireworks?" Rebecca ran home and called the police. "They're trying to use fireworks to stress protected animals," she explained. "Ma'am, are they on public property?" "They're on the road, but their goal is to provoke the animals on my property. We'll send a patrol car to check." Before the police arrived, Emma Grace had an idea. "Mom, what if the snakes disappeared? Then they wouldn't be able to film anything. Can you do that?" "Yes, the mother snake can take the whole family to the back of the farm." "Do it." Emma Grace communicated with the mother snake using her special gestures. Within minutes, the entire snake family had moved to an area of the farm that wasn't visible from the road. When the police arrived, Richard and the film crew were still there, but there was nothing left to film. "What's the problem?" asked the officer. "They wanted to use fireworks to stress protected animals," Rebecca explained. "Is that true?" the officer asked Richard. No, we were just doing a news report." "About what?" "About the risks of keeping wild animals near communities." "And where are the animals?" Richard looked toward the farm. There was no sign of the snakes. were here just a minute ago." "Well," said the officer, "if there are no visible animals and you're not doing anything illegal, I can't do anything. But I recommend you leave before the owners file a formal complaint for disturbance." After everyone left, Emma Grace brought the snakes back. "They understood it was a trap," she explained to Rebecca. "How did they understand?" "The mother snake is very smart. She realized those people meant harm and taught the others to hide." Rebecca was increasingly impressed by the mother snake's intelligence and Emma Grace's ability to communicate with her. "Sweetheart, do you think they'll try other things?" "They will. But the mother snake said we can be prepared." "How?" "She'll warn us whenever she senses danger coming." In the following days, the farm received more positive visits. Tourists interested in ecotourism, biology students, and even a documentary team that wanted to show the harmonious coexistence between humans and wild animals. Emma Grace became a minor celebrity in the area. Local newspapers ran stories about the girl who talks to snakes, and she started getting invitations to give talks at schools about environmental preservation. "Mom, can I tell other kids about the snakes?" Emma Grace asked. "Of course, sweetheart. I think that would be wonderful." The first talk was at the town's school. Emma Grace, accompanied by Rebecca and Dr. Sarah, explained to a group of children how snakes weren't dangerous when respected. "Snakes are like people," said Emma Grace. "If you're nice to them, they're nice to you." "But don't they bite?" a child asked. "Only if they think you mean harm. That's why it's important to leave them alone and not disturb them." "And how do you talk to them?" "With gestures and feelings, just like when you talk to your dog or cat." The children were fascinated. Several asked to visit the farm. Rebecca noticed that Emma Grace had a natural talent for environmental education. Maybe this was the future of the farm, an education and preservation center. She discussed the idea with Dr. Sarah. "Rebecca, that would be fantastic. An educational center for species preservation with Emma Grace as the lead guide. Do you think she's ready for that responsibility?" "She's already taking it on naturally. Better to formalize it and give her proper support." Rebecca decided it was time to plan for the future. The farm wouldn't just be a rural property anymore, it would be an educational sanctuary. She went to the town mayor to discuss official support for the project. "Mayor Johnson, I'd like to formalize the farm as an environmental education center." "Rebecca, that's interesting. It could bring tourism to the town." "Exactly, and it could create local jobs too." "What kind of jobs?" "Tour guides, environmental monitors, support staff." "And the issue with the snakes? Isn't it dangerous?" "No danger at all. Emma Grace has developed a way to communicate with them. It's even safer than many traditional farm activities." The mayor seemed interested. "I'll talk to the town council. If they approve, we can offer official support." Rebecca returned home excited. She was finally seeing a clear future for the farm and for Emma Grace. But her excitement didn't last long. That afternoon, Amanda showed up with a man in a suit. "Rebecca, this is Dr. Richards, a child psychologist." "What's he doing here?" Rebecca asked. "I've come to evaluate Emma Grace's behavior," the psychologist said. "At whose request?" "At the request of her aunt, who's concerned about the child's development." Rebecca glared at Amanda. "Amanda, you have no right to bring a psychologist here without my permission." "Yes, I do. I'm Emma Grace's aunt, and I'm worried about her." "Emma Grace is perfectly fine." "Rebecca, a child who thinks she talks to snakes is not fine," the psychologist said. "She needs evaluation." "She doesn't think she talks to them. She actually talks to them." "Mrs. Wilson, that's exactly what concerns me. You're reinforcing the child's fantasy instead of seeking professional help." Rebecca felt like she was being trapped. "Doctor, could you evaluate Emma Grace here in the presence of the snakes so you can see for yourself how the communication works? It's not safe to bring a child close to wild animals, especially if she has perception disorders." "She doesn't have any disorders." "Rebecca," Amanda interrupted, "stop being stubborn. Let the doctor examine Emma Grace. Only if it's here, in my presence, and without taking her out of the environment where she feels comfortable." The psychologist reluctantly agreed. Emma Grace was called and arrived accompanied by 2 baby snakes, which followed her like puppies. "Emma Grace," the psychologist said, "I'm Dr. Richards. I'd like to talk with you a little." About what? Emma Grace asked. About your friends, he said, looking at the small snakes. They're not my friends. They're my family. How so, family? The mother snake adopted me. Now I take care of her and the babies, and they take care of me. The psychologist took notes. Emma Grace, do these snakes talk to you? Not with words, but we understand each other. How do you understand each other? Emma Grace made a few gestures to the small snakes, which immediately moved into specific positions. Like this, she said. I ask them to do something and they do it. And do they ask things of you? They do. Sometimes they want food, sometimes they want affection, sometimes they want me to show them where it's safe. The psychologist watched the interaction for a few minutes. It was undeniable that there was real communication between Emma Grace and the snakes. Emma Grace, he finally said, do you know other people can't talk to snakes like this? I know. That's why they need me. How so? Snakes have always been misunderstood by people. They're not evil, just different. I can explain to people what they're really like. The psychologist took more notes, clearly puzzled by what he was witnessing. Doctor, said Rebecca, do you see any behavioral disorder here? Well, the ability to communicate with animals is unusual. Unusual doesn't mean sick. No, but... Dr. Richards, Emma Grace interrupted, do you want me to ask the snakes something specific? What do you mean? So you can see we really do talk. The psychologist hesitated, but scientific curiosity won out. You can ask, how many snakes are here on the farm? Emma Grace focused and made specific gestures to the small snakes. They responded with head and body movements. They said there are 17, Emma Grace replied. 17? There were 15 babies born. Oh, 2 older snakes came after the babies were born. A cousin of the mother snake and one of her daughters she hadn't seen in a long time. Rebecca didn't know about this. Emma Grace, where are these other snakes? In the back barn. They're more reserved. Rebecca, the psychologist, and Amanda went to the back barn. There they found 2 large snakes, not as big as the mother but significantly larger than the babies. My God, the psychologist murmured. How did she know? They told her, Rebecca said simply. The psychologist fell silent for several minutes, clearly processing what he'd witnessed. Doctor, Amanda said, does Emma Grace need treatment or not? I need more time to evaluate. This is extraordinary. Extraordinary how? Animal communication is scientifically documented, but rarely with this level of accuracy and clarity. So she's not sick? I can't diagnose illness when I'm observing a special ability functioning perfectly. Amanda looked visibly frustrated. Doctor, a child who thinks she's adopted by snakes isn't normal. Mom, the psychologist said, if the snakes truly treat her as family, and she can communicate with them effectively, perhaps the situation is more complex than simple childhood fantasy. Are you saying this is normal? I'm saying it's rare, but not necessarily pathological. After the psychologist left, Amanda confronted Rebecca. Rebecca, you're raising your daughter in a dangerous, unnatural environment. Unnatural? Emma Grace is happier and more balanced than ever. She'll grow up thinking she can talk to wild animals. What if one day she tries it with a truly dangerous one? Amanda, she doesn't think she talks to them. She really does. And the first thing she learned was the difference between safe and dangerous animals. Rebecca, you've lost touch with reality, or you're missing the chance to see something extraordinary happening. Amanda left even more frustrated than when she'd arrived. That night, Rebecca talked to Emma Grace. Sweetheart, Aunt Amanda thinks you need medical treatment because you talk to the snakes. I know. She doesn't understand because she doesn't have the gift. What gift? The gift of talking to animals. Not everyone has it. And you're sure you have this gift? Yes. And the mother snake said it's very rare. That's why it's important. Important how? Because when people and animals don't understand each other, they fight. When they understand each other, they become friends. Rebecca noticed that Emma Grace had developed her own philosophy about her special ability, and you want to keep using your gift to help? I do. I want to teach others not to be afraid of animals and teach animals not to be afraid of people. Rebecca felt proud of her daughter's maturity. Then that's what we'll do. We'll turn the farm into a place where people and animals learn to live together. And the snakes will help? Will they help? They will. The mother snake said they want to show people they aren't dangerous when respected. In the following weeks, Rebecca worked tirelessly on the Educational Center project. With support from the university, local government, and environmental organizations, the Pine Valley Wildlife Sanctuary began taking shape. Emma Grace was officially appointed as a junior guide, receiving age-appropriate environmental education training. She developed a special program called Talking with Nature, where she taught other children how to observe and respect wildlife. Success came quickly. Schools in the region started scheduling visits. Tourists interested in ecotourism arrived from other cities, and researchers from various universities requested permission to study the communication between Emma Grace and the snakes. The farm, which had been on the verge of bankruptcy, now generated enough income to sustain and expand. But Richard Coleman and the Green Development Group hadn't given up. They tried one last strategy. One day, Rebecca received an official call. "Mrs. Rebecca Wilson, I'm from the Department of Environmental Protection. We've received a complaint about improper wildlife maintenance." "What kind of complaint?" "They allege you're commercially exploiting protected animals without proper permits." Rebecca felt her blood run cold. "But I have all the necessary permits. We'll need to conduct a full inspection to verify." "When?" "Tomorrow morning." Rebecca immediately called her lawyer. "Attorney Davis, they're trying again." "Rebecca, do you have all your documentation in order?" "I do, but I'm worried they'll fabricate some irregularity." "I'll be there tomorrow to oversee the inspection." The next morning, a team of 5 inspectors arrived at the farm, accompanied by the lawyer and, to Rebecca's surprise, Richard Coleman. "What right does he have to be here?" Rebecca asked. "He filed the complaint," the lead inspector explained. "He has the right to observe the inspection." "What exactly is the complaint?" "Allegations that you're forcing a child to interact with dangerous animals for commercial purposes." Rebecca glared at Richard. "That's a lie." "That's what we're here to verify," the inspector said. Emma Grace appeared, as always, accompanied by a few young snakes. "Young lady," the inspector said, "do your parents make you play with these snakes?" "No one makes me," Emma Grace replied. "I take care of them because they're my family." "Your family?" "The mother snake adopted me. Now I'm responsible for taking care of her and the babies." The inspector took notes. "And are you afraid of them?" "Why would I be afraid of my family? Have they ever hurt you?" "Never. They protect me." "How do they protect you?" Emma Grace made a few gestures, and immediately the young snakes positioned themselves around her protectively. "Like this," she said. "If there's danger, they make a barrier." The inspector watched, clearly impressed. "Young lady, do your parents make money by showing you with the snakes?" "My mom makes money by teaching people about conservation. I help because it's important." "And do you like helping?" "I love it. I want people to understand snakes aren't bad." Richard Coleman interrupted. "Inspector, this child is being exploited. No 4-year-old should be exposed to this danger." "What danger?" asked Emma Grace, looking at Richard. "You're the man who wants to take our home." "What do you mean?" asked the inspector. "He wants to buy our farm to destroy everything and take the snakes away," explained Emma Grace. Richard turned red. "That has nothing to do with the inspection." "Yes, it does," said Emma Grace. "You're making up that I'm in danger because you want the snakes gone." The inspector looked at Richard suspiciously. "Mr. Coleman, do you have a commercial interest in this property? That's not relevant to the child's safety." "Actually, it's very relevant," the attorney intervened. "If there's a conflict of interest, the complaint could be considered biased." The inspector stepped aside and spoke privately with his team. Then he returned. "Mrs. Wilson will need some additional information, but for now I don't see any serious violations." "What do you mean, for now?" asked Richard. "The child shows adequate knowledge about the animals, doesn't appear to be under coercion, and all the documentation seems to be in order. But she's playing with giant snakes. She's interacting with animals she has a special bond with, under proper adult supervision and with all necessary safety protocols." Richard left the farm furious. The inspection ended with no violations found. "Rebecca," said the lead inspector before leaving, "the work you're doing here is exemplary. Congratulations." After everyone had gone, Rebecca hugged Emma Grace. "Sweetheart, you were so brave today." "I just told the truth, Mom, and it was the truth that saved us." That night, Rebecca received an unexpected call. It was Richard Coleman. "Mrs. Wilson, I'd like to make one final offer." "I'm not interested in hearing your offers." "Listen, we're tripling the original offer. It's enough money for you to buy 5 farms anywhere in the country." "What about the snakes?" "The snake problem is for the government to handle." "I don't care." "Mrs. Wilson, be smart. You could be rich and free of this responsibility." "Mr. Coleman, my daughter found her life's purpose here. The snakes found a safe home here. I found a sustainable future here. Why would I give all that up for money? Because money buys security." "Security? We're safer here, protected by the snakes and the law, than we'd ever be in the city with money and no purpose." "This is my final offer. And this is my final answer, no." Richard hung up. Richard. Rebecca knew he might still try other things, but she felt the worst was over. 6 months later, Pine Valley Wildlife Sanctuary was a nationally recognized success. Emma Grace had become a young ambassador for environmental preservation, giving talks and appearing in documentaries. The snakes had settled permanently on the farm. The mother snake had a second litter, bringing the family to 23. Emma Grace could communicate with each of them individually. "Mom," said Emma Grace one afternoon, "the mother snake wants to talk to you." "To me? What do you mean?" "She wants to say thank you." "Thank you for what?" "For giving her and her family a safe home, and for letting me take care of them." Emma Grace made her special gestures, and the giant snake approached Rebecca. The creature lowered its large head and gently touched Rebecca's hand. "She's saying thank you," translated Emma Grace. Rebecca felt tears in her eyes. At that moment, she understood everything had happened exactly as it was meant to. "Sweetheart," said Rebecca, "do you think we did the right thing?" "I'm sure, Mom. The mother snake said this was always our mission." "Our mission?" "To protect the animals and teach people to live with them. That's why she came to us." Rebecca looked around the farm. Happy workers, delighted tourists, fascinated researchers, and your fulfilled daughter. The giant snake hadn't invaded the farm. It had come home. 3 years later, Emma Grace, now 7, was known across the country as the Snake Girl. Pine Valley Wildlife Sanctuary welcomed thousands of visitors each year and had become a model for environmental preservation and education. Amanda never tried to interfere again. Richard Coleman had given up and moved his investments to other regions. The snake family had grown to over 50 members, all living in harmony on the farm. Emma Grace honed her special ability and could communicate not only with snakes but with many other types of animals. She became a little expert in animal behavior and dreamed of studying biology when she grew up. "Mom," Emma Grace said one afternoon, watching the mother snake play with her youngest grandchildren, "do you regret anything?" "I regret taking so long to trust your gift," Rebecca answered. "And I regret doubting you'd understand," Emma Grace replied. "Understand what?" "That sometimes the strangest things are the most important in life." Rebecca hugged her daughter and looked out at the farm, now a thriving and respected sanctuary. The giant snake that had invaded the farm had actually saved it. And Emma Grace, the child everyone thought needed treatment, had revealed herself as a natural guardian, destined to build bridges between the human and animal worlds. Sometimes appearances deceive. Sometimes what seems like an invasion is actually a rescue. And sometimes a 4-year-old knows exactly what she's doing, even when all the adults around her are lost. The giant snake found its family. Emma Grace found her purpose, and Rebecca found peace in knowing she'd made the right decision, even when everyone said she was wrong. In the end, love and trust overcame fear and greed, and Pine Valley Farm became proof that it's possible to live in harmony with nature when you have the courage to listen and respect all creatures that share our world. The end. So what did you think of this incredible story? Did Emma Grace make the right choice by protecting the snakes? Tell us in the comments which part moved you the most, and if you know someone with that special connection to animals. Don't forget to like and, most importantly, subscribe to the channel for more heartwarming stories like this one.